All right, good morning, everyone. We'll start our meeting this morning. So I'm going to call this meeting to order of the March 1st, 2021 meeting of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners. And we'll start our meeting by a pledge to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as we do at the start of all of our meetings, please join us in a moment of silence as we think, remember, and pray for all of our first responders here in Flagler County and the brave men and women of our Sheriff's Department, our law enforcement officers, all the brave men and women of the United States military that serve us here and abroad, and also to take a moment and think and pray for the 92 victims of COVID that we've had here in Flagler County since the start of this terrible pandemic, and think about all their families and all the stress and pressure that it's put on them. So please join us in a moment of silence. Okay, thank you, everyone. Look forward to a good, maybe fastidious and quick meeting this morning. We'll see how that goes. In terms of any additions or deletions, it doesn't look like we have any for the agenda. One announcement I will make is that I understand that for those that might be listening at home, there's currently no video available on our YouTube channel feed. I think we're having some technical difficulties there, so I'm sure they'll get addressed at some point. But so in case you don't see video but you're hearing audio, that's the way it is currently for this morning. We'll move. One other announcement: the next regularly scheduled meeting of this commission is our 5 o'clock meeting, which is scheduled for Monday, March the 15th. And with that, we'll move into recognitions, proclamations, and presentations. And first up, we have a recognition of the Friends of A1A Scenic and Historical Coastal Byway the organization, or the road actually was awarded the highest designation, becoming Florida's second All-American road. And Commissioner Hanson, I think you're going to handle that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, good morning, everyone. This board would like to take this opportunity to call attention to this recent award and to congratulate all those who had a hand in seeing it come to fruition. On February 16th, the A1A Scenic and Historic Coast Byway, which spans Flagler and St. Johns counties, as one of the country's national scenic byways, added another remarkable distinction. It was also designated, an All-American road. While most residents and visitors certainly know what a special resource we have in A1A, it's awfully gratifying to know that A1A doesn't just shine at the local level. This new designation, All-American Road, was made by the United States Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration, and it recognizes what a unique and outstanding asset we enjoy. If you just Google how many miles of road, you'll find that there are 4,180,000 miles of roadway in the United States, according to the Federal Highway Administration. Today, we're talking about 72 miles of largely two-lane highway. In the U.S., only 184 roadways have earned America's Byway designation, and only 57 of the most scenic, including A1A, have been designated All-American roads. This designation is significant for Flagler County. It is more than a beautification award. It signifies that A1A possesses features that do not exist elsewhere in the United States, features which are unique and important enough that our byway is a travel destination in its own right. This designation will help to promote tourism and our local businesses that depend on it. Scenic byways and All-American roads support the nation's small business community and are economic drivers for the entire region. This intrinsic quality of this travelway, both historic and recreational, are distinct and precious due to their rarity. And it may seem obvious to any of us that have experienced A1A that the roadway is one of a kind. But the Federal Highway Administration does not simply go on an extended road trip knocking on doors to hand awards to these standout roads. So today it's very important that we also recognize that this designation was the culmination of some very passionate and long-lived support by the nonprofit Friends of A1A Scenic and Historic Coastal Byway. The Friends have worked tirelessly to secure the All-American Road designation. This process began in 2019 and continued despite COVID, I might add. And they worked every day in our community to preserve and promote the outstanding resources of the A1A corridor. So thank you to the Friends Board, their president, Marjorie Akers, their byway administrator, Daniel Anderson, and to all the volunteer citizens who made this possible. The Federal Highway Administration's executive director said, "These designated roadways tell our national story." And as Administrator Cameron recently said, our A1A is about as all-American as Old Florida as it gets. So again, thank you for everyone who worked so hard on this important recognition. It was well-deserved. I think, is Marge here? No, Danielle? Sure. Of course. Come on up. That was a rather long report, but it was important to hear all the facts about this because it's a unique, very unique designation. Hi. Come on up, pack it in. Some of the people that helped us get this designation. Everybody smile? Everybody smile? Thank you. David. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Marge is here. I know that.
Microphone.
Take my mask off. I'm Dennis Clark, and I live on the scenic byway. And this is an amazing thing that's been done. And I know the people that really worked hardest on it are not me, but the people in Danielle and Marge. And I'm sorry that she's not here. I don't know. She may have been ill. But I just want to say a couple things. That this is an extremely rare and valuable asset, which in Florida puts us in an exclusive club with the Florida Keys Scenic Highway. We should recognize the people, that's only two, right, in Florida. We should recognize that people have enjoyed living in this area since the Timucua. An ancient burial site was recently discovered at Jungle Hut Road next to the Shell Midden. The reason we have this exceptional designation is because a lot of dedicated people, including the Board of County Commissioners, recognize the value of preservation over a long period of time. Preservation of history and archaeological resources, preservation of scenic beauty, and the preservation of natural resources. We need to keep this in mind as we move forward with so much pressure on building and commerce. You knew I was going to say that, right? We could very easily lose this precious resource within a decade or two if we don't protect it. So we are depending on you. Thank you for all your service in Flagler County.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Okay, we'll move on to proclamations. And first up, we have recognition or regarding Government Finance Professionals Week. And I think Commissioner Sullivan, do
Right.
the honors, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A proclamation, and I guess if the people who are going to be involved in this want to come forward, they can come forward as I read this. Proclamation of the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners proclaiming March 15th through 19th, 2021 as Government Finance Professionals Week in Flagler County. Whereas the Florida Government Finance Officers Association is a professional association founded in 1937 and serves more than 3,300 professionals from state, county, and city governments, school districts, colleges and universities, special districts, and private firms. And whereas FGFOA is dedicated to being your professional resource by providing opportunities through education, networking, leadership, and information. And whereas this Government Finance Professionals Week, sponsored by FGFOA, and all of its member government organizations is a week-long series of activities aimed at recognizing government finance professionals and the vital services that they provide to our state and our community. And whereas during this week, government finance professionals throughout the state of Florida will be acknowledged for their hard work, dedication, and leadership. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby proclaim March 15th through 19th, 2021 as Government Finance Professionals Week, and urge all citizens to extend their appreciation to all government finance professionals for their hard work, dedication, and leadership, adopted this first day of March 2021, attested by Lisa Funicello, for Tom Bexley, Clerk of Court, and signed by Donald O'Brien, Flagler County Board of County Commissioners Chairman. So thank you all very much, and congratulations. Here's the actual proclamation.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. It's John Brower, Financial Services. This is the second year in a row the board has recognized many financial professionals throughout the county working hard every day to meet the trust instilled upon them as stewards of our taxpayers' money. On their behalf, I'd like to thank you and the board for today's proclamation. Like so many others within the support operations, finance professionals work diligently behind the scenes to aid in the success of the many programs and initiatives in place to implement the board's policies. With a sense of pride, they conduct our financial business each and every day, from creating, implementing, and monitoring their respective budgets, to requesting and processing payments for the hundreds of vendors doing business with our county, to the extremely important task of making sure our payroll is properly processed each week. Each of them carries a tremendous sense of responsibility, not only for the critical work they do, but for all the people that count on them doing it with honor and integrity. Thank you again for recognizing these hardworking professionals. It is truly appreciated. Get a picture?
Well, thank you to your team, Mr. Brower. Would y'all take a photo with us? We would enjoy that and appreciate it.
And, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the Government Finance Professionals Week proclamation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, none opposed. That passes unanimously. And we'll move on to proclamation number 2 this morning, which is a recognition of Equal Pay Day. And Commissioner Dance, if you do the honors on that one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. My honor to read the Equal Pay Day proclamation. Whereas 58 years after the passage of the Equal Pay Day Act of 1963, women, especially minority women, continue to suffer the consequences of unequal pay. And whereas, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, women working full-time year-round in 2020 typically earned 82% of what men earned, indicating little change or progress in pay equity. And whereas, according to Graduating to a Pay Gap, a 2012 research report by the American Association of University Women, the gender gap is evident 1 year after college graduation, even after controlling for factors known to affect earnings, such as occupation, hours worked, and college major. And whereas in 2009, the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act was signed into law, which gives back to employees their day in court to challenge a pay gap. And now we must pass the Paycheck Fairness Act, which would amend the Equal Pay Act by closing loopholes and improving the law's effectiveness. And whereas, according to one estimate, college-educated women working full-time earn more than $500,000 less than their male peers do over the course of a lifetime. And whereas nearly 4 in 10 mothers are primary breadwinners in their households, and nearly two-thirds are primary or significant earners, making pay equality critical to families' economic security. And whereas a lifetime of lower pay means women have less income to save for retirement and less income counted in a Social Security or pension benefit formula. And whereas Florida's 2020 gender pay ratio was 83%, and its national rank is 7th. And whereas fair pay equity policies can be implemented simply and without undue costs or hardship in both the public and private sectors. And whereas fair pay strengthens the security of families today and eases future retirement costs while enhancing the American economy. And whereas Wednesday, March 24th symbolizes the time in 2021 when the wages paid to American women catch up to the wages paid to men from the previous year. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Flagler County Board of County Commissioners that they hereby proclaim March 24th, 2021 as Equal Pay Day in Flagler County, Florida, and urge all citizens of Flagler County, Florida to recognize the full value of women's skills and significant contributions to the labor force, and further encourages businesses to conduct an internal pay evaluation to ensure women are being paid fairly. Adopted this first day of March 2021.
Is there anyone here this morning regarding this proclamation? Okay. All righty. Well, thank you, Commissioner.
Oh, I need a motion to approve the proclamation, please.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, so next up, we're moving on to presentations, and we have our presentation from our Emergency Management Director regarding COVID-19 update, Mr. Jonathan Lord. Morning, sir.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners. So as the Chairman mentioned, we've had unfortunately 92 deaths here in Flagler County since this pandemic started. And as of last night, or officially this morning, 5,965 positive cases. And statewide, they're up to 1.9 million cases, and unfortunately over 30,000 deaths, and that's quite a lot. Recently, our percent of new positive cases in relation to the total number of daily tests has generally trended downwards, but we're starting to flatten out. But that's, I think most of the country is seeing that same kind of thing. We had this unprecedented spike, well, not unprecedented, but we had this big spike after the holidays, which unfortunately happened because a lot of people got together and weren't doing the face mask wearing and social distancing. So we had this big spike after the holidays, and so we had a nice precipitous drop, and I think most of the country did too, where the percent of new positive cases went down. It's starting to level out, and you're going to see, we do a trend chart. You all see a little trend chart that we share with you each day. You know, you see those little spikes of up and down, but we're staying lower than we were a month ago, so that's a good sign. But I think the lesson here really is that COVID-19 is not over, even though vaccines are still being pushed out, it is not over. There is still continuing virus spread, and it's important for workers, residents, visitors, just to keep doing the very simple face mask wearing, social distancing, and frequent hand washing, because those very simple activities really do make a difference. The state continues to distribute COVID-19 vaccines throughout the entire state and here in our community, and we continue to support those efforts led by the Florida Department of Health here in Flagler. To date, statewide, 4.6 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine have been administered. I think Florida statewide is definitely leading the way in getting vaccines into arms. Over 22,000 Flagler residents have received the vaccine. So that's a very, very key important number. That equates to about 20% of our population receiving the vaccine. And more importantly, because the vaccine is restricted to certain individuals, over 53% of our residents 65 years old and older have received the vaccine. 53%. That's in less, you know, this only started really legitimately in January, even though some of the first doses got to healthcare workers back in December. Between January and February, 2 months, over half of our seniors have been vaccinated. That is something I really, really want to highlight with you gentlemen, because that is a huge accomplishment. And that, you know, that's to do with the state pushing the vaccines out. That's to do with the health department and our paramedics and our private sector partners with the pharmacies and our hospital as well, getting those vaccines in people's arms. That is an awesome, awesome number. I think last I can't remember, it was 2 weeks ago, but I think I might have mentioned we were at number 8 out of 67, or might have been number 12, I don't remember which one I mentioned. But as of today, we are at number 8, so we're staying at number 8 for the last couple of weeks. That shows the efficiency and efficacy of the various partners, which now also includes CVS. So CVS was added to the list of private sector partners last week. One of our CVSs, the one on Belterre, was added to that list. The health department continues to receive 1,600 doses each week. So the last 2 weeks, it's been 1,600 doses, primarily administered at the fairgrounds. They also continue to receive the necessary second doses. I think the whole concern about second doses is now a non-issue. The federal government and the state has shown that it's not an issue getting them. So actually, I probably won't mention that in my future updates because that potential issue has kind of gone away. This is in addition to 1,200 first doses being provided by the 4 Publixes in our county that have pharmacies, as well as the 400 I just mentioned that CVS is now doing weekly. On the CARES front, as I think I sent you all an email on Friday that I was very excited to share, while the CARES program officially closed at the end of last year, we had until last night, so the midnight on the 28th, to get all of our final documentation into the state or risk potentially getting money pulled back. Between finance and I, we're the ones that are actually uploading all the stuff into the state's website. We were able to accomplish that about mid-afternoon Friday. It took a huge weight off of our chest that we got all of that backup documentation up there. The only thing we're waiting on is about 19,000 and change check to come from the state to reimburse us for the very last reimbursement. It'll probably show up in the next couple of weeks, but they have 100% of the documentation. I did ask the state on Friday how many counties, as of Friday, had completed and spent all their money and got their documentation in, and I think it said 27, so less than, a couple more may have done it over the weekend. So less than half of the counties, and we were one of those counties that got everything into the state as they required. So now that we've got all our documentation in and nothing's been taken back by the state, we can share that the business grant program awarded a total of $4,775,500 in grants to our local businesses. Our individual assistance, which was housing and utility assistance, issued $4,365,567.32 to be exact in those grants. That is separate from additional grants that they've also gotten out to the public that I'm not really the expert to speak on those, but they had additional funding streams as well that the Social Services Department was also able to push out. The balance of the funds, of the 20 million and so funds, reimbursed various government agencies for expenses incurred with responding to and mitigating the impacts of COVID-19. That included the construction, that included buying things like masks, that included the testing, the costs related with testing, and then those funds went to one of our community development districts, our municipalities, our constitutional officers, the Florida Department of Health here in Flagler, and also many of your county departments. So that got spread amounts amongst many jurisdictions here within Flagler County. As you all know, that entire program was quite a challenge. We had constantly changing rules and deadlines, including up front, basically no rules, and then rules that changed every few weeks. The federal government added rules and the state added rules because our money is passed through the state. But I think we made our way through it as best we could. And I'm very proud to be a part of that program with all of those amazing partners. So thank you. Any questions?
We have some questions. Commissioner Hanson?
Real quick, we know that some people come from other counties
Yes.
to get shots here.
Yes,
We
we
know
actually-
that people go from our county to other counties. Do you track that?
After the fact, we don't see, because honestly, someone getting a shot, emergency manager, we're not allowed to see that. That becomes protected health information, but the health department does see that. Honestly, we have a lot of Volusia folks come up here because we're pushing it out a little quicker than they are percentage-wise. They have higher volume, obviously. And a lot of our folks, especially in the northern half of the county, go up to St. John's. So it's kind of a domino effect. So we'll get residents that complain, we'll say, hey, it was easier for me to get it in St. John's. There's people saying the same thing in Volusia about us, so it's kind of a round robin. I looked at, this morning before I walked over here, I looked at the percentage. We talked about 53% of our residents. St. John, over 65. St. John's is actually at 76%. And Putnam and Volusia, so I just looked at all the neighboring counties, are significantly below. We are at 46 and 30-something off the top of my head. So St. John's is a unique anomaly because of the fact that they actually received the Pfizer vaccine, not the Moderna vaccine. It was just a choice the state made. They just kind of chopped the counties up when they started giving the vaccines out to the local health departments. And once you were locked in on that one, they weren't going to change you. because logistically to change you vaccine midstream just causes so many issues with second doses and all that stuff. There were less counties that got the Pfizer because more of that initially went to the hospitals and then a handful of counties. So as the hospitals were dropped off, there was more Pfizer available. So by number of vaccines available, because there were less counties involved in getting it, St. John's was one of those little anomalies, like is getting significantly more percentage-wise of doses each week than most other counties, just because they were one of those unique Pfizer counties. So and they're having problems filling vaccines, and we've unofficially, I don't want to officially tell our residents to go run up there because St. John's will get unhappy with us, but it's provided by the state, provided by the federal government. You're allowed to get the vaccine wherever you want to get it.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Yeah, just a couple of things, Jonathan. Number one, the CARES program was unbelievable that you've got that all done. And I had one small business person who kept saying, she'd talk to me once in a while and says, "Is it really coming?" I said, "Yeah, don't worry, just hang in there, hang in there." She finally was one of the very last people to get it, and she was thrilled. But my question is this. In the paper this morning, and almost every day, the Daytona News Journal tends to want some kind of a headline that makes headlines. So this morning, the headline was, 2,000 students in Flagler and Volusia have been infected with COVID-19. But they never follow up with and kind of analyze that more. I think there are 442 in Flagler, school COVIDs. Here's my question, and I don't know if you can even answer this, is of those 2,000 students, how many were hospitalized and how many have died from COVID-19? Because I think that number is pretty small. But
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, and the health department would honestly be the best to answer that, but it's minuscule. So when they report infected, it just means they went somewhere and got tested and showed positive. They could have had 0 symptoms, which I'm not, I don't want to downplay that either, because the fact that you have it means you can spread it. It doesn't mean you're not causing a risk to others. But I think you've all seen the instance of children getting severely sick or even potentially sick at all from it. There's a very high instance of non-symptomatic with children. So.
Right. My point is, the headline in the paper is 2,000 school children have been infected. And it sounds like, oh, it's terrible, and they never tell you about the percentage of actually ones that were either hospitalized or had a horrible thing of
Right,
dying.
and I can just tell you anecdotally too, most of the spread that in general now comes in households. So one person gets it, so if it's a family household with 2 or 3 children, the odds are extremely high that over a period of a couple of weeks, all of those children, including the parents, are going to get it. So one person brings it in and it spreads it, which actually also, as you're mentioning, increases those numbers. Doesn't mean they're going to get severely ill, but it doesn't mean they won't either. So,
It's just
yeah.
a point, just a small point. Thank you.
I had 2 things. One, all of us were out at the fairgrounds over the weekend because we had the opening day for our Babe Ruth baseball for Flagler County, and there was, as these commissioners will tell you, 0 mask compliance, 0. And we understand that there's fatigue, COVID fatigue, and we understand I think we all understand statistically the chance of, children, as you just talked about, being severely ill is a lot lower than someone that has comorbidities or that's older. So I'm wondering if we can't just maybe go back out there and re-communicate the message of it's not time to stop yet and not time to quit in terms of, compliance with masks and social distancing. And obviously, little kids on a field can't wear a mask if they're playing a sport, but everybody else in the areas where, because there was also no social distancing either. It was quite concerning, and it's our facility. So to the extent that we can communicate that, I think that would be important.
No, definitely, we'll double down. We've been constantly pushing it on social media. We get the fun negative comments every time we do. But I'll work with Julie and make sure we be a little bit more aggressive on a formal press release to push it out as well.
Anecdotally, mask wearing and compliance is a lot less in the county. If you if you're out and about, it's just, it's hard.
Yeah, and I think even you've heard it from the CDC. That's the issue, unfortunately, around the country. It's not unique to Flagler, but we can all do better, especially when we're around large groups and stuff like that.
And the only other question I had, just for clarification for me, is I had talked to a couple of people over the last few days, and I was quite surprised to find out, in particular, one person in their late 30s was getting vaccinated this week. I think it might have been with Advent. So my question is, if it's Advent or one of the healthcare providers, they have their own supply, they can make their own decisions different than what the state requirements are?
Yeah, so up until Friday, the state requirement was that if a hospital deemed that somebody was needed it medically, that they could give it. I think some of the hospitals went beyond what the governor's intent was, so the hospital stopped receiving vaccines for a little while. I don't know if that's exactly what caused him to do that, but I do know that there were some hospitals that went rogue, and I believe his intent was, if you have a patient of yours that has a high-risk condition coming in for surgery and something like that, get them the vaccine. I think that was his initial intent. On Friday, he changed some of his language with a new executive order a little bit and said that physicians, pharmacists, and advanced practice nurses, nurse practitioners, if they deem somebody of extreme risk, I'm paraphrasing, that they could then give the person the vaccine. I don't know what that means in practice, because at this point in time, in general, physicians and nurse practitioners aren't getting vaccine to give it out. Your family doctor is not getting the vaccine yet. That will change at some point. So at this point in time, that has not happened. Maybe that will change this week. As you all heard, I think this weekend Johnson & Johnson was approved. Florida was already on track to receive that, just pending the FDA's approval. So we don't know what the governor's going to do with that single-dose vaccine. Maybe it's going to go to some of those people. So maybe his language in the executive order was forecasting that and just setting the legal things in place. We don't know if that means that if the health department's medical director here, Dr. Bickle, was to say, hey, I deem that law enforcement is eligible, is at high risk, that then we can start giving it to law enforcement. We're not sure. I've actually sent an email this morning to the health department director asking, based on your interpretation and legally, are you allowed to do that? Because sometimes what the governor says focuses on the private sector giving it out versus what he expects of the public-run sites, like the site here in Flagler County. So we need some clarification. I actually have a call, all the counties have a call with the state this morning at 11:15, and I'm sure that will be the number one topic of the discussion, is what did the governor mean and what can we legally do? Because we don't want to go against what the governor said, because the governor would have every right to stop providing vaccine to us if we were not following the rules. So we just have to make sure we are towing the line with that.
Okay, anything else, commissioners? All right, as long as we can be consistent with our facilities and get that message out about masks and social distancing, I think that'd be helpful.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All righty, we'll move on to community outreach portion of our agenda. And again, a reminder, this is a 30-minute time period allocated for public comment on any consent agenda item or topic not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission. Speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct comments to the chair.
Morning.
Morning.
May I remove my mask while I'm
Please.
here?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. I'm feeling a little muffled. I want to second what your comments were about the need for greater social distancing. My
need your
husband
name
and
and-
I have medical issues that make us.
I need your name and
Oh, I'm
address.
sorry, Robin Pauletta, Halifax Plantation, and that make us vulnerable. So we are very careful about when we go out. And so I appreciate Mr. Lord's efforts. Along those lines, the House has sent to the Senate a stimulus bill, and I am going to urge you and our state representatives to contact our state representatives, because all the economic experts are saying that we need this. Now, personally, I don't need the check, even though I qualify for it. The last time I received a check, I donated it to 2 local groups, the food bank and the sheltering tree, because they need the money more than I do. But the fact is that there's going to be funds to reopen schools, increased unemployment benefits, which will really help our people in the service sector that have been laid off, funds for vaccine distribution, which is huge for the county, and also small business relief, among other things. This is an important bill. I think it's important for the government here to speak out in support of it, because it's going through the process of reconciliation with the Senate. So I would urge the commissioners to do that. So that's all I have to say. And also, I did get a shot in Flagler County through Publix. It took a lot of attempts. I'm very grateful. My husband had his 2 shots, and I'm getting my second one Thursday. So I can go back to the gym, hopefully in a month, and start working off the COVID-15 that I've gained in the past year.
Thank you, Mrs. Paletta. All right, anyone else? Morning.
Hello, my name is Pat Cody, and I live at 8276 County Road 304. I have 2 things I want to bring. One is I want to thank Ryan Pravat and the county. Multiple emails were sent regarding a light on the stop sign, the red light on the stop sign on the west side of 304 facing 11 that was very dim. Locals had to know that they had to go through 4 speed bumps and then travel a little distance when it was very foggy because the light was very dim and you couldn't see it. So Ryan contacted my husband and me, and we met him, and what happened was there was an issue with the cover to the light. The company that the county used, they used them to get the new light cover. Unfortunately, that company changed what they were sending, and the light cover was very dim, unbeknownst to the county. So when they went out and investigated, they had to reorder the right covers, and now it blinks bright. And so we're very thankful, and I do believe that Ryan told me, and I might be wrong, that there were some more installed like that, so they were going to have to go back through the county and find the ones that they had installed that were light so that they could, again, blink bright. My other is I'm a 4-H leader. I have been for over 30 years, and I'm one of the few clubs that have in-person meetings. One of the reasons that we do that is because we social distance, we wear our mask. I have to sanitize every table, every chair before our meetings, afterwards. But I got with the county and found out that our children have to have so many community service hours in order to graduate from high school, and also in 4-H we encourage community service hours. So we were allowed to use the Hall Creek Community Center to clean in order to gain some of our community service hours. Well, I wish I had taken a picture of all the bags of junk that we cleaned out. And it was huge. People had, I don't know what kind of events, but we had 3 huge garbage bags full of stuffed toys. I mean, stuffed animals, all kinds of junk. So anyway, we cleaned that. We started cleaning windows. We found out that one of the windows was broken, so we made that information available. But anyway, we want to thank the county for allowing us to use that building to do community service hours, and we plan to continue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cody, and thank you for your leadership with our youth. Okay, anyone else for public comment? I didn't say here comes trouble, Commissioner Hanson, you did. Morning, sir.
Charlie Erickson. I just wanted to share something that would be of interest. I haven't yet heard it. Maybe our great emergency management person can get more information on it. But the other morning, I got a phone call. I recognized the caller as being a lady friend of mine, and she's opened the conversation by saying, "Had I taken a shower yet this morning?" My response was, "Well, do you have something in mind?" Well, what it was, she says, "I'm going to be down there in 20 minutes. I'm going to pick you up, and we're going up to Jacksonville." I said, "What are we doing up there?" She says, "We're going up to Regency Mall, which is up on the northeast side of Jacksonville." She picked me up. We were on our way up to Jacksonville. We pulled into the parking lot. There was National Guard folks there. There were nurses there. There were hundreds of people. There was no wait. 3 minutes, and I was inside in front of a person who took down my medical history, asked me about the vaccine shot. Within 2 minutes after that, I was administered a shot, and I was put on a 10-minute leave to see if there was going to be any reaction, and then I was on my way home. Shots are available. They're doing 1,000-plus people a day. There's no crowds. There's no cars in the parking lot. I don't know why people don't know that. Now, I'm not a fan of driving up to Jacksonville with the traffic. 95 and 295 is under repair again. But they also gave me a time and date to return for my second shot. So I will be back up there on the 9th of March for my second shot. All free, blacks, whites, Hispanic folks, speaking together, all with smiles on their face, always doing a good presentation to the patients. It was just, I was amazed. I was amazed that I haven't read anything about this place. And I obviously thanked Rosemary for her phone call. But we stopped at one of Mr. Hansen's favorite places, a restaurant up in St. Augustine, the Ford restaurant, Ford car. If you haven't been in there yet, go there. They didn't pay me to say that either, but there are shots available. I waited 6-8 weeks. I was on my computer every day, putting my name on a list. I didn't get one call back, and here, within a matter of an hour, by just a bit of information, I was getting stuck in my left arm with a shot. So I've got number 1 done. Number 2's coming up on the 9th. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Charlie. I appreciate you helping us get the information out. Anyone else for public comment? Morning, sir.
Good morning, George Mayo, Palm Coast. Good to see you again. I've been absent. A couple things. Today with the A1A Committee, Preservation and Historic Committee, I want to thank them for their work in getting that. One question about that, since it's now designated, I know like with historic buildings, if there's damage, you are limited in how you can repair them and materials you can use. So if we have a storm that damages A1A, are we now limited? Will this help us get money faster from the government? Will this get us money slower from the government because of the materials you might have to use? You can't just use anything. So I'm curious as to whether that will affect us in any way. But again, thank you for that. I know with the legislature opening up right now, having read just some of the bills that are being proposed, again, of course, there's some that are there to throw shade on our sunshine laws. And it just gets worse every year. Somebody's always trying to dim our sunshine laws. And I'm hoping that you as a committee are talking to our representatives and/or lobbyists as to voting against anything that throws any kind of shade on our sunshine laws. And just speaking now, this lady here, a young lady talking about Cody's Corner, I'm wondering if there's been a decision by the state DOT. Have they dispensed with and not going to put a roundabout there, or is that still in discussion? Thank you. Have a good day.
Anyone else for public comment? All right, seeing no one else approach the podium, I'll close the community outreach portion of our agenda. Commissioner Hanson, you wanted to address?
Yeah, the
Mr.
American Road issue, there's no restriction placed on it. As a matter of fact, it opens the door to some other funding, but there's no restriction on how we deal with the road or anything. But the designation alone is a great deal, but it does open another window for funding.
Mr. Cameron, in terms of that, any knowledge you have on the roundabout issue over there, or is that just a dead issue at this point? Yeah.
My understanding is it's suspended.
Okay, all right. I think that's the follow-up we needed for that section, as far as the comments that we had. And thank you, everybody, for participating. We'll move on to our consent agenda. And we have the items there, and I'll just start with you, Commissioner Dance. Anything to pull from the agenda?
No, sir.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing.
okay.
I have none.
I'd pull item 6C for comment.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the consent agenda with the exception of 6C.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. That motion carries unanimously. Commissioner Sullivan, item 6C.
Right. I think this is another one of the items that I feel is a good thing for our citizens, and kind of wanted to give it a little more recognition publicly. I see our tax collector is here, and I just kind of, this is the first time this is actually coming before the board. I know you're well along, so maybe talk a little about what it means and scheduling and how, we haven't had the Staples location open for a while, so maybe we could just get a little update on it. Thank you.
They came prepared.
I figured they did.
I brought a map so that you're able to see where this office is. And all of you know on Palm
Closer to the
Coast
mic.
Parkway,
Closer to the mic.
on Palm Coast Parkway, closer to US 1, is the complex, St. Joe Plaza complex. Ace Hardware is on one end of our building, and then we're on the other end. The reason that I'm here is because Florida Statutes 197.332, it says that I can hire staff and equip such branch offices to conduct state business, or if authorized to do so by resolution of the county governing body, conduct county business. Now, pretty much everything that we do is state business: property taxes, driver's license, vehicle registration and tags, heavy use tax for the IRS, Florida birth certificates, hunting and fishing licenses. But what I do for you is local business tax receipts and tourist tax. By you designating this as a county office, it opens the office up to other uses that you can do. Say we have a disaster and you need a place for FEMA. It's designed so that we can vacate one side of the office and you could have FEMA people there to help the benefit of our residents. I can have county meetings if y'all had town halls you needed to hold or other meetings. I can put the property appraiser or the clerk or the supervisor of elections materials in that office. It opens it up to a lot of different things that we really can do. But, it has been a big struggle trying to renovate, build during COVID. You could not get materials. Who would have thought that fire retardant paint would take 2 weeks to get that? Or the door, and everything has to be scheduled because not only are your county employees working on it, it's also the state and the state contractors. And I can't say enough good things about your General Services Department. Heidi, Mike Dixon, all the crew. Anytime you work with a group of women, you know how it is. It's going to be some sort of trouble, and they have just been fabulous working with us. They just smile and just let us do that.
Commissioners, do not respond to that. You're not baiting us on that.
Heidi's over there shaking her head.
Yeah, be glad your mouths are covered up. I couldn't see your smirk on that. But this will be a very good thing for the county. The Palm Coast office that was there on Old Kings Road was only 1,200 square feet. And so it has been closed since COVID. There was no way to socially distance any of this. This office has 3,000 square feet, and y'all know me, I try to do things as economically as we can. The free item we got, I had looked at seating for our break room. And the bench-style seating gives you the most places for people to sit. So we learned that Hungry Howie's in the land was redoing all of their furniture. So we got all of that for free. You just go over there and you just ask. If you don't ask, the answer is no. We also have part of our furniture from the Sheriff's Operations Center, because that's free. And so we really try to do things as economical as we possibly can. I'm big into that. So, do y'all want?
Yeah, just a couple of last items. I think it's great that this is going on. Two questions, basically. Schedule, when you think it can be open, given COVID-19 and the fact that you need it open. And number two, I just took a quick look at your budget, and it went up like 12.5% this year. And is that because you're hiring more people, or just get an idea because of this new facility?
No, not at this time. Whenever we closed the other Palm Coast office, those employees came to Bunnell and the Flagler Beach office. So they'll just spread back out again. You don't just hire people because you've got a new office. You wait until the population and the transaction count shows that that's needed. The office is not complete yet, but this needed to be done now instead of waiting until your second meeting. The final inspection should be the end of this week. And we're going, and we'll end up having some sort of a grand opening, and I'm hoping to include the other businesses in the complex, because our commercial areas are very important. So that will work out.
Anything else, Commissioner? All right. Well, great. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Sure
Great
appreciate
job.
it. Yep.
Super. Good for everybody.
Mr. Chairman?
Sir.
Sir, I move that we allow county business to be conducted at the branch office, Flagler County Tax Collector on 213 St. Joe Plaza.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those we'll open that up for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to comment on that item? Okay, seeing no one come forward, I'll close public comment. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Move on to general business. We have one item, it's item 8A. It's presentation of a draft comprehensive plan and policies implementing a countywide approach to compliance with the peril of flood statute. And Mr. Mangel's going to educate us on that.
Good morning, Commissioners. Adam Mengel, Growth Management. That's a tough act to follow. This item, you've heard us mention it a few times, and I'm not going to say too much about it this morning. I'm available for questions, but this is the culmination of the grant that we had received. If you recall, DEP sponsored this grant for us. Regional Council staff has been working with us and the other municipalities in the county to develop this policy language. Flagler Beach was our model. The text that you see is, for the most part, the Flagler Beach text. And so if you recall in the timing, they did theirs first, and we're replicating that language. And our intent with this is to give you just an initial first blush look at this. This is not an adoption hearing. This is intended to be one of the workshops. Again, the other municipalities have gone through, reviewed this language, and had similar meetings and solicited comments and questions. And we intend then, once we receive those questions from you, Commissioner Dance had a few that he provided to us, encourage you, if you don't have them here in this public setting, and also for the public, to do the same. provide those questions or comments to us, and we can strengthen this language, come back as we move forward with adoption. We anticipate adoption to happen, I would hope, in months, not in a longer term than that, because this is something that statute has required us to move forward with, and it's time for us to do so. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Margot Moring with the Regional Council, and she has a quick presentation of several slides for you. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Can you hear me okay? I had two masks, so I'm just down to one. But for the record, notice it's a print to go with my outfit.
You're welcome to take the mask off if you're up there by yourself.
I'm actually more comfortable with it on. Oh, it's on. Okay. And thank you very much, Adam, for the introduction. And I'll be brief, but we just wanted to kind of give you an idea of how we got here, and it's kind of exciting that we're here. Everyone will be familiar with the kind of context of the coastal high hazard area. That's a concept that has been in the comprehensive plan for 18 years or something. And it relates the Storm Surge 1 analysis to evacuation times. So that's an emergency preparedness concept that's always been, not always been, but for a long time has been in the comprehensive plan. So then in 2011, the legislature added adaptation action areas. And that's a focus area, and it's optional. So it's something that you can put in your comprehensive plan. It's not required. I'll take off the mask. Sorry. In 2015, peril of flood is a requirement. So coastal jurisdictions, and you're a coastal jurisdiction if you front on the Atlantic or the Gulf. So in the case of Flagler County, not every jurisdiction is coastal and has to do peril of flood, and that's sort of related to what we're talking about today. But it does require that coastal jurisdictions address future flood risks from storm surge and sea level rise in comprehensive plans. And we planners were a bit surprised to hear sea level rise being discussed by the legislature in 2015. It was good news to kind of be having that conversation. So there is a vulnerability study in place. So there's good data that's already existing for Flagler County, and that's the 2018 Resilient Flagler County Study. So that's also available. And then as Adam mentioned, in 2019, the city of Flagler Beach did an entirely new comprehensive plan, and they were a jurisdiction that had to do the peril of flood approach. And so the reason that that's important is, number one, that they're local, and they've already done it. So we know that the state and reviewing agencies are likely to sort of look positively on the approach. And the other thing that they did is they made a link between the coastal high hazard area and the adaptation action area. And they were not the first to do that. There were other jurisdictions that had done that. But to my knowledge, they're the first to make the link specific to the linkage between emergency preparedness and adaptation. It's about the messaging and the communication, that the public should know this is a vulnerable area, and it matters at hurricane season, but it also matters that we work on adaptation for the rest of the year so that it's less impacted during hurricane season. So when we sent that, we at the council worked with the city of Flagler Beach on those model policies. We did not know what the state's reception would be to that approach, but they went for it. So that's kind of good news in kind of the county context, knowing what the state is likely to be supportive of. And then again, as Adam mentioned, we partnered and kind of pitched the idea that we could do a county-wide approach that would have the policies be aligned, the peril of flood policies be aligned. So if you're a member of the public or you're a developer or anyone who cares about these things, the approach in Flagler County is the same. It's not exactly the same because the jurisdictions are different and they have to be customized to work in that jurisdiction, but they're aligned. And then the coastal high hazard area, the entire coastal high hazard area is proposed to be an adaptation action area for the purposes of the linkage between emergency preparedness and adaptation. And so I have a quick slide on all of these things in case there's any question and sort of for your information, but coastal high hazard area, that's the emergency preparedness designation that's been in the comprehensive plans the longest. And the idea is that we shouldn't be spending public dollars to subsidize development in coastal high hazard area that's going to slow down evacuation. That's kind of the idea that's been in comprehensive plans for a long time. The adaptation action area, the thing to remember there is it's a focus area. When it went through the legislature, there was talk about funding for adaptation, and it was going to be a big program, and it ended up not being any of those things, but they said you can put it in your comprehensive plan, and that enables you to focus. And then it becomes a local decision what to focus on that's related to risk and adaptation. And then 2015 is the peril of flood statute, so that's a requirement. And so Bunnell does not have to do it, and Palm Coast does not have to do it because they're not on the coast. But Marineland and Flagler Beach has already done it, and Beverly Beach and the county do have to do it. This is a requirement. So you'll be seeing that as it comes through. And as Adam said, we have the model policies from Flagler Beach that we know the state and reviewing agencies are receptive to because they've seen them and approved them previously. So this graphic is the Resilient Flagler County Vulnerability Study. So that's one of the kind of resources available. The Regional Council is helping with its resources. And there's also other examples, just, so you know, the city of Jacksonville made its made its coastal high hazard area an adaptation action area. For their focus was on something different. They articulated it differently. The city of St. Augustine Beach, same thing. Theirs is more similar. Their approach is more similar to Flagler County, but it's been used before as an approach. So we have the model policies from Flagler Beach. And I'll show you, there is a tool, one of those tools that the public can type in their address and look at various aspects of vulnerability and risk, so that can be helpful. And in the context of launching that tool, the Regional Council did a survey on resilience. It's not scientific, but we do have the data by zip code. So we can get you what people thought, the people who responded, what people thought in Flagler County about what they knew about adaptation and what they thought were appropriate solutions in Northeast Florida. So it's a little sort of anecdotal information about what people were thinking. So this is it's buildcommunityresilience.com, Northeast Florida. That's where it is. And this is the area it covers, and then over on your left are the data layers and the risk factors that are included. One thing to be aware of is we are currently updating things like storm surge. So it hasn't been updated on this tool yet. It is updated on the map that I'm going to show you, but there's a little bit of lag there. So it's a tool. It's a communications kind of tool, and hopefully increases awareness. But we are getting that updated, and I will let Adam know when it's done. So again, this is how Flagler Beach approached it. And, it comes down to the public awareness on the link between emergency preparedness and adaptation. And the reason we were a little concerned that the state wouldn't go for it is because it seemed so simple. But in fact, they did go for it. So that makes us happy, and I still think it's a very sort of reasonable and straightforward approach. So this is the project that Adam referred to that FDEP has funded. And we are working with each of the communities. We're targeting a meeting at each one. We've talked to all the communities except for Bunnell. That's next Monday. And again, the idea is we have the tools available. We have the model policies and the new updated maps for coastal high hazard area. And then the community has to determine whether the policies fit in or need, to be aligned with how they do business. So it's very important that everybody's aligned, but it's also, specific to them. So this is the updated coastal high hazard area map for the county. And this kind of shows you where, which jurisdiction includes some coastal high hazards. So it's marine land, it's Beverly Beach, it's the county, and it's Palm Coast. So we did talk to Palm Coast about they don't have to do anything for peril of flood, but we provided them with the policies. They're just starting to look at their comprehensive plan now. And we provided them with the maps, and they were certainly willing to consider it. So this map presumably would go in your comprehensive plan. And that's a brief overview, but we just wanted to kind of bring how we got here to your attention before we started, the final work on the comp plan. Any questions for me?
Commissioners?
Thank you, Margot. And I, since we passed that resolution last week to support the continuation of having regional councils in the state, because there's legislation to do away with them, this is a good example of how our regional council here supports us. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Commissioner Hanson?
A couple of questions on implementation. About line 99, it talked about public awareness. Is there a plan? How do we, does that mean we're going to put out press releases every 6 months? Or what do we do when you mean public awareness? What does this thing require us as a county to do?
I'm not sure there's much in the way of requirements. Again, it's sort of identifying your area of focus. The Regional Council has done some informational brochures and has kind of a program. If anybody asks us to talk about resilience, we'll come talk to their community group. We've been doing a lot of those virtually, but so we do that. I don't think we know the answer yet, but I think it's more sort of alliance on those programs and more getting them into Flagler County. Because we're already doing some of it, and we could be doing more of it in Flagler County.
Okay, I just kind of read it as a task for us, the county, to provide this public awareness, for us to do that.
I think you guys are doing a pretty good job anyway, but we'll just help. It's kind of making the...
Okay, and then at line 151, they talked about including to make sure that our flood plan administrator, which I assume is Adam, or his representative comment on every permit that's in this floodplain area. Do we have a checklist, or do we have something to make sure that happens?
Yes, sir, we do that right now, actually, and so every flood permit, either myself or the building official are reviewing those and providing comments as it relates to the FEMA requirements and our own ordinance that we adopted. And if I could touch on your previous question, I think you can imagine, there's a lot of synergy here, planner word, buzzword, whatever you want to call it, but it's true that's happening. Community rating system, program for public information, the PPI, that we talked about before, that puts out that word, and I see all of these things integrating very well.
Had this been in place 4 or 5 months ago, would we have voted differently on the Gardens project?
I think you would have had some vesting issues probably with that would have at least had some discussion that it would have affected that. I can't talk
This
directly
right in the
about
center of the coastal high hazard area.
And so you're seeing some language that's discouraging, again, in this. It's not prohibiting, but it's discouraging density increases. I think you had those land use aspects already in place. Quick answer is I don't think it would have had much of an effect, but
Okay.
we didn't do that deep analysis on it.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Marco.
Commissioner Dance?
Thank you. You might not want to sit down just yet, Adam, because some of this is kind of like an open public comment period now following, so to speak. Will there be, I think I heard possibly community outreach for workshops or anything, or are we just going to open up comment on the website and have a way for the community to read our policy and then comment?
Yeah, these will come back as draft policy language. We have to take it to the planning board. We're going to have quite a few other steps here with this, so this won't be this will be part of the adoption of the comprehensive plan.
All right, the planning board's a good public comment
Yes.
period.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Some of the elements refer back to additional staff analysis. So will you be presenting impacts to staff time or potential need to hire additional staff to comply with this?
we'll need to, and again, the stuff we're doing already for special flood hazard area work that we do, I think that we'll need to be talking about some more of that also, and in the context of the community rating system, that there's some things we can do there to score better. This certainly adds another layer and some more review, and so we'll have to talk about that, I think, as part of the budget.
Right, and there's coordination with emergency management
Certainly.
services as to analyzing some of these severe storm events, the king tides, and so I'm sure we'll coordinate with them as well, because they may have staff time added to this. It's interesting, even though Palm Coast isn't coastal, a lot of their inland areas are affected by the CHHA. So they're not mandated to be part, but we're going to ask them to be part of the government or the county-wide system.
We've given them the resources and kind of presented the ideas to them. They don't have to do anything, and they had a planning commission meeting. I'm sorry, they call it something else, but they're that body. They're in the early stages of looking at their comp plan, so at this point, I really don't know but they're interested. They were certainly interested. So, I mean, that's what I think we're hoping, is that the next time they update their comp plan, that they consider including some of those policies if they need them. They already have policies related to flooding and risk, and that they consider including the CHHA as an
Right. It just is a
adaptation
little
action area.
odd because you don't necessarily have to be coastal to be worried about resilience and flooding, so.
Absolutely. And we think that's why the state funded this application, because it just makes so much sense, that the jurisdictional boundary shouldn't,
Right.
be determinant of anything like that.
Okay. Thank you, that's all.
Mr. Cameron?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I'd love to get a copy of this slide presentation, just for future reference. And secondly, in answer to Commissioner Dance, a number of the questions he asked are going to be answered in the budgeting process, because the real key to addressing this is going to be money. And for that reason, and it's a long-term commitment, for that reason, this is a year that we're going to present you with a strategic budget plan that talks about impacts in future years that may affect budgeting decisions this year. So anticipate that in the next 30 or 45 days.
Anything else, Commissioners? All right, we'll open this one up to, well, this was just a presentation, right? So this is not an action item, I apologize. So I think we're fine on that. Okay, all right.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have no public hearings scheduled, so we'll move on to item 10, which is our reports and comments. Mr. Cameron?
Yes, sir. The only thing that I have is a follow-up on y'all's question with regarding to the mental health facility that we're not going to be able to do at the secondhand rows in that structure. So we've reached out to a number of community partners. We had originally budgeted about $150,000 from the county. I have gotten a match commitment from Flagler Hospital for that $150,000. Seeking a couple of other commitments. I've got Ivan Kasimi with SMA is researching how they can use this match money or a portion of it to fulfill the mental health aspects of the grant. So in answer to, are we going to be able to utilize the grant? The answer is yes, in one way or another, with help from community partners. That's all, sir.
That's it? All right. Did you have a question, Mr. Commissioner? All right. Okay, Mr. Hadid.
Good morning, Mr. Commissioners. Just to take you through a number of the cases that are pending. First, with the protracted litigation that we have in the ethics area. I had provided you some prior updates. Let me get you more current on that. These involve the cases pending by the Attorney General against Mr. Dennis McDonald, Ms. Kimberly Weeks, and Mr. Mark Richter. With respect to Mr. McDonald, the court has set a deadline on the contempt, the order to show cause why he should not be held in contempt. That deadline is March 8th for him to provide his financial disclosure to the court, where right now there is pending an approximate $79,000 in judgments, accumulating interest at 6.83% per annum. The court directed that he can be arrested and held for 48 hours prior to the hearing on that order, which is set for April 28th. In Ms. Weeks's case, I mentioned to you about a summary judgment being filed. That hearing filed by the Attorney General. That hearing has been set for March 17th on the two cases in which she is involved. And the Circuit Court in Tallahassee has also set a summary judgment hearing against Mark Richter on March 22. So we should be hearing fairly shortly on these, hopefully for their conclusion. The dunes, you know, we're proceeding with those. I wanted to highlight two things there. And one is we're very happy to report that all of the commercial properties along State Road A1A have executed voluntary easements for the project. So a real milestone for the business community in Flagler Beach. Also wanted to mention to you an activity that we're going to undertake in support of the city of Flagler Beach. You may recall that some time ago, Flagler Beach was in discussions with the Florida Department of Transportation on providing an annual maintenance budget for the renourished beaches. And due to the unfortunate passing of Mr. Newsom, and now they're in the hiatus before their new city manager begins, we have offered to them to restart those discussions again to give that a kickstart. It has not yet been negotiated and executed, and as you know, while our relationship is excellent with FDOT, you still have to go through a lot of effort to get grant agreements done and so forth. So we've offered to assist them, and they, pursuant to their request, so our county engineer will be helping them on that level. On Captain's Barbecue,
Just
I'm sorry.
on that last item, that's for the areas of the beach not covered by the Army program? That last item you just talked about?
well, that's actually to be negotiated. Remember now, there is no agreement, there are no documents yet codifying this proposed agreement. So this is an agreement to be developed.
Right, but that is the subject of it.
The general subject is maintenance of the beach. How far that extends, I can't tell you because that's not been concluded. Yes, there were earlier discussions about that, but those discussions didn't reach the point of being articulated in writing.
Okay, so I'm just trying to, I thought the Army Corps program had in it a 50-year process for maintaining the beach.
That's correct, but it doesn't stop interim kinds of bolstering of the renourishment.
Okay, I just want to make sure
With
I
other
understand what we're
funds.
talking about.
Yeah.
here. So it includes the area of the
could.
Army Corps.
I have to say about all of that, it could, I don't know, because it hasn't matured into any kind of finalized arrangement with FDOT.
Okay.
When that's done, we can certainly, inform you what those results are. We just don't know right now. The negotiations did not proceed past a certain point where they would nail those
details down. In the captain's case, as you know, we're in pretrial discoveries. I just wanted to let you know that. There are no hearings on the horizon. We're quite a ways from the setting of a trial date. In the public nuisance case involving the abandoned Dixie Motel, we're very near on filing our complaint. We perfected the last notice that we had to file in order to pursue that action. And finally, on the Sears case, we are nearing filing that suit. As you know, we had extended an opportunity for the remaining parties to try to resolve the outstanding amounts due that we haven't recovered, somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000 to $400,000. So they have not engaged us, so we intend to be filing suit very shortly. We'll let you know when that's done. And that's it, unless there are any questions. Thank you.
I think that's it. All right. Thank you. So we'll move on to the second community outreach portion of our agenda. And again, this is a 30-minute time period allocated for public comment for items not on the agenda. Each speaker will be allowed up to 3 minutes to address the commission, and speakers should approach the podium, identify themselves, and direct comments to the chair. Anyone wish to partake? All right, seeing no one approach the podium, we will close the community outreach portion, final portion of the meeting, and then we'll move on to commission reports, comments, or actions. And we'll start down by you, Mr. Sullivan, Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of items. Remind everybody who is a resident of Flagler, City of Flagler Beach, that their election for mayor and one of their city council persons is tomorrow. So get out and vote as good citizens. Number two, I wanted to, even though it was on our consent agenda, I wanted to note that one of our past commissioners, Mr. Erickson, who's still here, has volunteered to be on the library board, and that's one of the things we voted on today, and it shows that our commissioners are good people, and we continue to want to support the community, whether we're in office or not. And finally, one item that is just a general item, not looking for discussion on or anything, but between the constitutional amendment that was passed this in the past election for Florida, which will increase the minimum wage to $15 over the next 5 years, and it goes to $10, I believe, at the end of this September. The business community, and I recently was at a business meeting here locally, is very concerned with that and the federal mandate, for which is probably they didn't go through, I guess, on the current bill, but they'll put it in separate legislation, I'm sure. That's going to be a tremendous burden on our restaurants. And there's going to have to be some legislation to get around some of these problems. So just as a major issue that's going to stare everybody in the face is the minimum wage issue, where one size does not fit all in this country. So I just want to note that that's going to be a continuing, very difficult issue as we go into the future. And that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Mullins?
A couple of things. I just want to update you guys on the town halls that I've been having. We've had 3 so far this month, and lots of happy people. They really have complimented the commission on getting a lot of stuff done out in the west, west of US 1. But lots of praise there, so I felt like the need to share that with you guys. We're a little behind on the roads and ditches and I think it's really because of COVID and just throwing some of the staff off, but I'm meeting with the staff Wednesday. We're going out, we're looking, and we're going to start a program on that, so we should get caught up on that. Was a lot of concern about mosquitoes brought up again. The kids are getting eat up by them, and so are adults. So there was some concern brought up about that. And there was some concern about, on the report, that there was no gas tax spent out on the west side. Commissioner, Mr. Cameron, could you address that there is, if there is gas tax spent out on the west side?
Yes, sir. We spend every project we have has a gas tax element in it out there. And there have been a lot of projects in the last couple of years.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of road work, so I assumed it was. I just wanted to make sure I asked you about that. And then the final thing is broadband. We are making, there was someone that made a comment that the other commissioners didn't support it, and I quickly reminded them that that is our top priority for the county. It was in our top 5 priorities. It's a strong state initiative with it right now, and also small counties initiative is, so we strongly support the broadband. And with that being asked, I need to get a consensus from the board. As you guys know, I've had the broadband task force go in for a little while, and we're real close to needing to, at this next meeting next month, we're going to have a grant writer just propose to us and talk to us about the process. But I need to get a little more staff direction with staff. It's kind of getting above our pay grade, that group and that task force. So I was wanting to see if I could get a consensus from the board to continue on this and maybe have something, that the group will have something to present to us fairly soon about getting broadband throughout the West and actually all of Flagler County. But wanted to see if we could get if I could get consensus to get staff's input and help on that, because we're at that point of needing to.
Well, I think it's obvious, Joe, that we've got to get it out there. I mean, we have to. So, yeah.
But also, our second policy priority, which we did vote on and have consensus on, is entitled Support Affordable and Reliable High-Speed Internet Throughout Florida and the county.
Yeah. So I think we've got it.
Yeah, I think you kind of you can start there, and
Yeah.
I don't, and there's some backup on that. In other words, there's words that back up that.
So you guys will be okay if staff kind of got involved with the task force, if the county manager can kind of appoint and direct someone to help us?
I think Commissioner Dance had a question or comment.
I think it's, there's more to it than just, as far as us giving consensus, because there's monetary issues involved with this. So with as the meetings I sat in with you when I was on the other side, there's a match component to the certain, and if the grant is still out there, are we still working on that? Is it still eligible? Because there was a significant grant component to that.
Yeah, we are, and that's what we're at the point of doing, is getting it all put together to bring back to the board to present. So nothing would be done until the board would approve it, but we're at that point where we need to see if realistically we can go after this grant. So, and get a grant writer to kind of look at it and approve, but it would all be brought back here for us to approve.
But I guess at this point, it's not in this budget. Are we talking about budgeting next year?
Yeah.
All right.
And the specific ask is some staff support time to your committee to work on the grant application
To be able to present it to us to make sure we approve to go forward with it,
with the application.
with the application. Correct.
And I guess the only thing I'd add is there's multiple opportunities with broadband. So if we're going to commit staff to this particular one, this is all focused on the grant at this point.
Well, it's any option that we have out
Yeah,
there.
because there's other,
Yeah.
I mean, I think if we're going to commit staffs, with the expertise from staff would be able to research then other options other than just the USDA grant. So they can look at Starlink, they can look at other local options to come up with a best approach.
Right.
I got to ask one more question. This is for the attorney or the administrator. If we do that by consensus, does then this change that committee to one that needs to operate in the sunshine and change the whole process?
I would think that if you started expending inordinate amounts of staff time, that it would become a county project and would subject it to the sunshine laws and advertisement laws and so forth attorney can answer that. As a practical matter, as a commissioner, when an individual commissioner comes to us with concerns, if those concerns can be addressed in the ordinary course of business, then we try to provide assistance in expediting some of those requests. But when the request reaches a threshold where it is going to take a reprioritization of your activities, then a single commissioner, we can't respond to that. I would have to have direction from the board for that. And I think that's what Commissioner Mullins is asking for. As to the sunshine question, I'll defer to council.
I'm not entirely familiar with the broadband task force. That's a group that regularly meets?
Yeah.
Is it noticed?
A monthly meeting.
And then
It's
that would
promoted,
be, then that would be already a subject to the open meetings law.
No, it's not been approved by
Thoughts?
the commission as a whole. It's, Mr. Mullins has been working with
an
those
informal group.
residents.
Yeah, it's informal.
It's not noticed. Okay, I thought I heard that it was.
We promote it, but I don't think it's noticed through the proper, but you're right.
Okay, it's not a county advisory committee. It's not functioning in that way.
No.
Okay, all right.
So I guess until it has a mission and a vision, it wouldn't necessarily, yeah, I mean, the commission as a whole would have to authorize a task force for it to, and have a recommendation, the end result being a recommendation to the county commission for it to be sunshine and
Well,
noticed.
if any group is out there, if there's a recognition of a group out there that is formulating policy, a policy recommendation for the board, and as part of that process, county resources are being used, then that group is subject to the open meetings law. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I don't know enough about the activities of this group and so on, to be able to answer definitively, but I'm more than happy to get with Mr. Mullins, staff, whoever has more knowledge about this, to provide direction. I just don't know enough of the facts, but those are the general principles.
Well, if we're dedicating, I guess in my opinion, if we're dedicating now consensus for additional staff time, either Commissioner Mullins will have to vacate his informal task force, or the board as a whole will have to create one.
Well, I don't know that I totally agree on that. What I'm thinking is there's plenty of groups that are informal or ad hoc, groups within the community, and in essence, what they're doing is they're just coming to the county and asking for some staff assistance and working on a grant proposal at some point. And they're asking for a little bit of labor support more than anything, not anything more than that. And I think that happens all the time, where we might give support to another organization, right, that maybe needs some help in formulating a grant proposal or some advice. Do we not do that?
But this is being led by Commissioner Mullins. There's a bit of a different,
Are you the chair of this committee?
It's not really it's an informal group. It's a citizen-started group, and I'm attending it.
He did not start the committee, and he doesn't
It was
organize
started
the
by a
committee.
group of them, Gary Lubai, a couple of others that were meeting. So, I mean, I'm okay if we discuss it. Mr. Hadid, we're just at the point where we're becoming, our hands are tied, and we need to get, if we're going to do this, we need to get moving with it. And we're not limiting it to one aspect. The goal and the mission is to get broadband throughout the county, so whatever means that is. And it may be different ones throughout. But we're at the point where we need some staff support.
And I agree with you. At that point, I think we cross over a threshold and go to the status changes of that committee once we start to give it formal support.
Right, and it's more geared toward, correct me if I'm wrong, toward the grant proposal.
No,
So-
it's open to everything.
But
And we've
that's-
discussed all options. The grant is just this one, what's been on the subject the last few times that you'd come in because we were nearing that deadline. But it's on all options to be able to present and say, hey, here's what options are available. But the grant is definitely the front runner because it puts a substantial amount of money to it.
Well, just to clarify, the chair is correct. I mean, all of you know this, not anything you don't know. There are ad hoc associations of individuals, some through organizations that exist, that are trying to shape or suggest policies to you as a board. That does not make them sunshine. That does not put them under the sunshine law. It's when our involvement with their policy making, their policy formulation, where the line is approached. Typically, if there is a request, I mean, I know I receive those requests to assist a commissioner or some group because they pose some kind of question. I'm sure Mr. Cameron gets these far more frequently than I do, as well as department heads, et cetera. That does not transform those inquiries into subject to open meetings law. So it really just depends on the level, it depends on the degree of connection of whatever the informal group is to the county. At some point, it will cross a line where when you begin to recognize them as an adjunct to your policy formulation, that their meetings will have to be subject to the sunshine law. But I can and will vet that with Mr. Cameron and Mr. Mullins with respect to this particular group.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, there are actually two questions here. When you have an organization, and you're correct, Mr. Chairman, we provide some sort of support frequently to these various ad hoc committees in the community. It's a question of whether or not we are going to provide significant staff support to one of these groups that I feel has crossed the line into public policy, and it falls within the domain of this board. We are supporting broadband. We have lobbyists at the federal and the state level supporting it. It is the stated policy of this board to pursue broadband, but I just want to tie those efforts to this particular committee or work group that is out there. And if we're going to provide significant staff support directly to them, I just want to be comfortable that the board agrees with that. The sunshine issue is a separate issue.
I mean, just to, I want to clarify, it seems to me you get to some critical point, say there's a grant, some kind of grant for this. And at some point, we would have to show, that committee would show support. So they probably want to say the county specifically supports this. At that point, I think it becomes more than just an ad hoc group. And so I don't think we're not there.
We're
yet.
nearing it. We're nearing it. We're
Well,
real
that's
close.
the sunshine issue.
Yeah.
The issue, what I don't want staff to get caught up in is a situation where we go down the road and we're expending significant staff. I know this is a priority of the commission, but the vector by which I pursue your priority is also a consideration. I don't want staff to be criticized 6 months from now because, well, you were doing what a single commissioner told you we never approved that. I just wanted on the record that we're going to use this group to pursue this objective.
Well, the group has put a lot of effort in. The reason I think they're good to go, they've put a lot of effort. They've done a lot of study. They've been meeting for approximately almost 18 months. And it's just time for that group to start moving and moving in a direction. When we sit down with the lobbyists and the grant writer and speak about the process, it's time to come back to the commission at that point, I think, and say, hey, here's what we found out and what we've got. So if it's official then, or if however we do it, it's getting near that point that we need to do something.
Commissioner, did you have something else?
Sure. I just think if it becomes an official county task force, then we have to have a specific guidance for the task force. We have to come up with guidance. We have to come up with an end result, because the last thing you want is ongoing, endless task force. They have to have a purpose and an end solution. So it ends with a recommendation. It ends with some formal action. And if Mr. Hadid determines that that this current task force is going to cross that line, it needs to come back to the commission, in my opinion, to officially set the task force and the parameters. At least in my experience, that's the formal process for doing it, especially if they're going to come back to us with a recommendation.
Commissioner, can I maybe suggest that you ask the group to come and give us a presentation, tell us what they've done so far, and what, if they're specifically asking for some staff time to help them write a grant proposal, and/or they see the end result that we would be the sponsor of the grant, then give us a formal presentation so we know what we're deciding on. Because at this point, it's, we don't really have a whole lot of knowledge about it. We recognize that strategically.
Well, we set it as a priority. I don't have any problem with having staff work on it. It's just
We can bring it in, and we have a mission, we have a goal. We're not just meeting for the heck of it. I have a lot more things to do. I've got a very large company I run personally, so we're not just meeting for the fun of it. We've got a goal. We want to get broadband to the west. We want to get it throughout the county, and the group feels like they are spinning wheels and nothing's occurring, and they're starting to get a little upset. And they said, listen, we've been talking about this grant for 2 years now, and we've just pushed it away. There's now being a third thing, this Starlink thrown in there, which is not affordable for a lot of the people out there. And we're in a now situation. These kids need it, these adults need it, and for public safety, we need it. So I don't mind them coming in. I
Just
can
crystallize the ask, and I
Yeah.
think that will help us all.
You got it.
So, all right.
Yeah, I just want the direction, if any commissioner had an initiative and I thought it was going to take extraordinary or significant staff time, I would be doing the same thing. It's not confined to this one issue, but to give you an idea of what we would do if I had consensus from you, we would have a staff member attend every one of these meetings. We would take some form of minutes. The ask that they have, we would do research for them. We would task someone with looking at what grants are available. We would look at legal ramifications on any direction that we started to take. All of that takes staff time. And I just, if going through this particular committee is the way the commission wants to do that, I have no problem, but I just don't want to take off and do that without some direction.
So I'll get them to come in and speak to the commission about it. The main thing is we've made this a priority, and instead of it just sitting out there as a priority in words, this group's taken a lot of action to try to make this a reality. So I'll have them come in and speak to the commission, probably the next commission meeting, if that's okay with everybody.
Well, my understanding is to take no action until that happens.
No, I think we should continue to research and help them clarify their presentation.
Yeah, I mean, we're ready for staff to help us put it, to move forward. And if I need to be off of it, I don't mind opening it up to other commissioners and being there. I'm certainly okay with that. The main thing is getting this done, is getting it vetted.
I would just have Attorney Hadid do the clarification on, to make sure that we're properly conducting the task force, that's all. But if you're looking for consensus, I'm on board to get staff involved,
Yeah,
and
that was my
because
ask, is for consensus.
Let's do that, and then let's get the group coming in, talking to the board about the next step.
So, Mr. Chairman, I have consensus.
It sounds like it for limited staff involvement to get it to
Limited
the-
staff involvement.
to bring it here so we can have a formal presentation.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anything else, Commissioner?
I am done. Thank y'all.
Commissioner Hanson?
You all may remember the Pamela Drive issue. We met, staff and I met with their attorney and several of the homeowners, and thanks to the hard work of Tim Telfer, we reached a solution with them that's amicable, and that's now been solved, which is really good. I attended the meeting with Dave with with several business owners in Flagler Beach, and the restaurant owners are not hurt by the will not be hurt by the $15 pay raise because the help doesn't get paid, by that. The waitresses don't get paid by that scale. But they are concerned about offering benefits to their employees. And I thought it was a very well presented. Mr. Hadid gave a great presentation on the beach progress. But the restaurant owners are concerned with giving benefits to their workers. And one of the restaurateurs said that it would be 51% of his income would go towards benefit packages for his kids, and they just can't do that. So it was kind of an interesting meeting.
Yeah, and
very interesting meeting.
Right, and there will have to be some legal stuff done.
Yeah.
Because now they get a certain kind of benefit,
Right. And they're asking for our help,
Yeah.
to help them
Yeah.
brainstorm
And
this.
then the problem is if you start moving up the minimum wage, then the person who's next in line expects a raise. If everybody's up to $15, then the next guy in the chain is going to have to get more, and pretty soon you really, it's going to be an overall
Yeah,
problem.
the waitresses currently get $3.23 an hour.
Right.
So
So they may have to do something with that.
that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner?
Thank you. I guess for a question for the chair, are we working on a timeline for discussing the replacement process for the administrator?
Nope.
Okay. So no discussions about the process?
No?
What's the process then?
Don't have a process at this point. We don't have a resignation. We have a letter from Mr. Cameron giving us an outline of what his thoughts were, but we don't have a resignation. So we don't have anything specific to react to, in my mind, as of today.
So we're waiting for the official 90-day notice?
I don't really have any desire to talk about it until we have something on the board. But, I mean, whatever the pleasure is of all the other commissioners.
I'm good with what you said, Chairman.
I don't think we need to do anything.
I'm not being smart, Alec, I'm just answering your question.
Okay, no, I get it. I'm just still, I'll have to process, because I would like to, at least in my mind, having a timeline would be appropriate, but second question was on the planning board. As we went through the review process of the new planning board member, there's been questions from the sitting planning board members about the criteria we use. And I don't know if we need to revisit the vacancies that we've had on planning board and the trouble we've had fitting people within the geographical time areas of planning board. I guess if, Adam, if you wanted, do we need to address that? Is it a long-running issue? Is that something the planning board addresses first?
I've had questions about that in the past, too. I would be open to us doing that.
Okay.
Reviewing that, for sure.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, it's been brought up by the planning board members, and so that, if you remember that makeup in the Land Development Code we've had in there, the language for a long time was the professions, if at all possible, hire or bring on these folks from these professions, not hire, but have them on your planning board. And then we had the geographical kind of qualifier. And what the intent was with that, the background quickly, was so you didn't have maybe all Palm Coast residents. We have the requirement in there's an elector already that you should be homesteaded, was we were heading principally an elector of the county to be able to serve on our planning board. So that excluded some folks that are here that don't necessarily live or vote within the county. But then the hope was perception at the time when that language was put in was that we had overrepresentation from the cities and not from unincorporated. And so that's why that language was put in. I kept holding all along, you still have the ability you're not held to anything. You can appoint, it's asked for, but it's not, I think the language even said something like just a majority of vote, so that, you still had the ability to do something more. I don't have any real preference with it. I think that the language has been problematic. We've always been able to fill. It's taken a few months to fill. Today, again, I think we filled the vacancy with a candidate who is not in the geographical area where we have the vacancy, but, it's, the board's always had that prerogative to do so. And we've talked about taking that language out as part of the LDC rewrite. If the board would like for us to do that, we'll put that in.
We could look at it then. I think the only concern is in the advertising. If people are looking at the actual language within, they go to the website and they pull it up and they've determined that I don't live in that area, so I'm not going to apply. But somebody who's applied, even though they don't live in the area, gets selected. I just don't want there to be confusion for applicants. If it's going to be open, maybe we just say we prefer, first option is people that live in here, but we take applicants outside the areas and the board will consider it, just so we don't have vacancies.
Yes, sir.
You said there's no problem with quorum. You've been able to meet quorum. We've
So
just.
far, so good.
Yeah, okay.
Let me ask this. I mean, I've seen some commissions where each commissioner selects a person, so it's kind of solid. They know they've got someone, and they select them from their district. Has that been a thought of?
I think we started out that way, if I'm remembering right. At least in the formative, when you're pulling your board together, I think that's how it works. And with 7 on this little, we'd have the 2 at large. But I think that's kind of the theme that we were trying to get at with this. And then now with the vacancies and as they occur, we could do that. We could go back and say 1 for each of the districts and then 2 at large, and then just assign folks that don't necessarily fit into one of those. Yours would be a District 2 seat, yours would be a District 3 seat. And so we could do that retroactively.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been a good way to make sure the district's represented and that someone's come from it. So that's just a thought.
Commissioner?
That's it for now. Thank you.
That's it? All right. And the chair has no reports or comments or
Mr.
actions.
Chairman, I just had, I forgot one item, if I could bring it up.
Yes,
real
sir.
quick. Plantation Bay, for the extended connection out to Bay Drive, they told us they'd come back to us with a solution on that, and I think they did. And I just wanted to get that on the record since they had to report back to the board.
Yeah, they just began construction on it. That was.
Well, we got a
getting
letter,
back to us.
right? We got a
Yeah.
letter indicating that. So they fulfilled their requirement that they made to us.
In addition, we visually looked and they are well underway.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to, since they said they were coming back to the board on it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
You get a second on that? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.
We didn't say.